This is Halifax's North End. Located just north of downtown, it is one of the city's oldest neighborhoods. This is Fairmount, located to the west of the Halifax Peninsula. It is a much newer neighborhood. Clearly, these two neighborhoods have a very different feel. But how do their designs influence the way that people live and move around? As someone who mostly gets around by walking or biking, I often find myself thinking about the streets I use and how they feel. Does it feel safe? Is it interesting? If I had the choice, would I go there again? Usually, I find older neighborhoods feel much more inviting than newer ones. These areas feel safer and more pleasant to travel through on foot because of the narrower streets, slower car traffic, visual complexity, and the presence of human activity. This is called walkability. Walkability isn't just about the physical ability to walk somewhere. You could walk down this sidewalk in Bears Lake, but would you? Maybe if you had to catch a bus, but given the choice, most people will drive here. This area is not walkable. This is a much nicer street to walk down. A walkable area should give you a reason to walk there. It should also have a sense of identity. It should be distinct and memorable. Here is a small residential street in the Hydrostone. It has some single-family homes, some duplexes, and some apartments. There are trees and green space that add visual complexity. The street is quite narrow and not many cars use it, so it's fairly quiet and safe. And just around the block is a street with shops and restaurants. Because of the grid pattern that the streets are laid out in, it's easy to reach this commercial hub just by walking for a few minutes. Walkability goes hand in hand with good public transit. In fact, many neighborhoods built in the 19th and 20th centuries were centered around a certain type of public transit, the streetcar. The North End is an example of a streetcar suburb. Its growth was concentrated around a streetcar line running up and down Gottingen Street. The main street of a streetcar suburb would also typically serve as a hub for commercial activity. These streets had to be accessible by walking. Community gathering places such as schools, churches, and libraries were also within walking distance. Even with the streetcars long gone, many streetcar suburbs are still thriving. Their well-connected street networks are great for supporting pedestrians, cyclists, and buses. They don't have to rely on just a single mode of transportation in order to function. And that's the big difference between an older suburb and a modern suburb. Modern suburbs started being built in the mid-20th century when cars were getting very popular. These neighborhoods are designed around cars, and they usually do a poor job of supporting any other kind of transportation. The streets are wide and free of any visual complexity, allowing cars to drive quickly. They often have poor connectivity. There's only one type of housing, single-family homes. The houses are large, spread out, and they all look quite similar. And the shops, well, there aren't any. If I lived in Fairmount and I wanted to go shopping or grab some food, what are my options? There are a few small shops along the nearby St. Margaret's Bay Road, but even these are hardly within walking distance. There is a bus that runs between Fairmount and the Halifax Shopping Centre, but it only runs 6 times a day? That's it? In all likelihood, anyone living in Fairmount who wants to go to work, or go shopping, or just about anything else, will get in their car and drive to their destination. This is called car dependency. Suburbs like these rely on a single mode of transportation in order to function. Okay, so what's wrong with that? Why is walkability important anyway? There are many reasons why walking is an ideal mode of transportation in cities and why driving isn't. To name a few, walking doesn't create traffic congestion, it has a much lower environmental impact, and it has important benefits for our mental and physical health. Cycling and public transit also share many of these benefits. Also, if you live in a car-dependent suburb and you're too young to drive, or too old to drive, or you have a disability that prevents you from driving, you're basically stuck unless someone else is willing to drive you. You don't have any independence. So what do we do about this? We need to learn a lesson from some of our older neighborhoods about how to design walkable places. Land uses should be mixed and streets should be well connected so that basic needs can be easily accessed. Streets should be designed to feel safe and inviting to pedestrians, which often involves slowing down car traffic. Streets should be visually interesting, they should have a sense of identity, and should encourage vibrant human activity. If we can give people a reason to walk and make it a good experience, we can bring walkable neighborhoods back into the spotlight of modern cities.